Wow. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. And I'm doing pretty well after what I saw today at the Combine. And if you guys watched or followed along the Combine in any way, you probably know why. So, this is obviously going to be our final Combine wrap-up video. Although I may have to split it into two videos because we're talking about the entirety of the offensive line. We're not really breaking it up into positions because we don't even know how these players are going to break up into positions yet. We may not know where these players end up until they've been in the league for a few years. So, to speak about the offensive line just in general, saying that you have a collection of linemen that may end up playing in one of various different locations, I gotta say, for a group that was not really getting that much positive attention, there was a lot to really like this year at the Combine. And obviously some of the good stuff was the tackles, but a lot of it wasn't. There was some really impressive interior offensive line stuff as well. And one thing that people have said about this interior offensive line group has been they're not very good. Well, that may still be true. I'm not ruling it out. What I can say is that after today, they are some mobile offensive linemen. They are some of the most mobile offensive linemen that you will find. So if you want to build an outside zone running scheme, if you want to build your offense around mobile offensive linemen, this is a great place to start. So as someone who believes the Seahawks are planning on doing that very thing, I gotta say, I was pretty hyped today. I didn't have huge expectations for this crop, but with one, maybe two exceptions, pretty much everybody exceeded what I was thinking they were going to be able to do out there. So I'll just speak kind of more or less off the top of my head about what I thought I saw out there. This is obviously kind of a quick reaction because it just ended less than an hour ago as of me recording this. So we're going to just go and we're just going to say what needs to be said. And maybe later we'll be able to kind of hone in on a position a little bit better. So understand that this is just kind of a snap reaction, first impressions. But yeah, let's get into some offensive linemen here. So the first thing that jumps out is the 40 times. There were 5 linemen, including a center and a guard, and 2 guys who may move from tackle to guard who were sub 5 seconds. One guy almost touched 4.8. That's pretty insane. Jared Wilson was the fastest man of the day. Interior lineman, center at Georgia. Came in weighing, 310 pounds works, right? That's going to cut it. Big hands, decent sized arms. And he flew. He flew down the field, man. 4.84 is inhuman for a guy this big. You don't see this every day. 1.72 10-yard split was one of the best of the day. The jumps were pretty good too, but I mean, he was the number one graded athletic center. I think, yeah, center. But I think if you took every single offensive lineman, he'd still be number one. So Jared Wilson is a guy that I've talked about quite a bit over the last several months, but I think his draft stock just went like this after today. So that's very exciting. That could definitely be something that is Seahawks adjacent at the minimum. I don't know how this team feels about Oluwatimi. I don't know how this team feels about Christian Haynes, but Jared Wilson, man, absolutely killing it. And look at these guys who finished not that far behind him. We had a bunch of guys in the 4.9 territory. Armand Membou. I hope you guys like the idea of drafting him because it's gone now. You're not drafting Membou. For one, I think he's going to end up playing tackle anyway, but even if you don't feel that way, after today, 332 pounds, 6'4", 33.5-inch arms, and he's running a 4.91, 1.74 10-yard split. He's gone. I don't see any way he's there at 18 anymore. I mean, maybe it's more likely than Tyler Warren being there at 18, but you are wishing on a lucky star here. 34-inch vert, 9'7" broad for a guy who weighs over 330. Number one athleticism score of all tackles that went. So however you're looking at this guy, and at this point I think he's probably a tackle, but even if you're looking at him as a guard, like this is a guy who seems to be clearly worth a top 15 pick anyway. Uh, Jonah Savaiinaea, another guy who I thought tested really well. Better than I would have expected. And this is a guy who's a tackle who everyone expects to play guard at the next level. But I'll tell you, 324, 6'4", almost 34-inch arms, maybe not. Maybe we have to revisit this a little bit. 4.95 40, 172 10-yard split. I think he had almost the best 10-yard split of any offensive lineman today. Now, he's not super explosive. Maybe that's a vote in confidence of him moving inside. His 20-yard shuttle was just whatever, but man, I mean, he has the body type of a tackle, and however you view him after this combine result, you have to say he's looking really good. All right, Tate Ratledge. So, that would be the fourth guy who finished sub 5. I'm not going to talk about Campbell because there's no way we're going to be able to draft Campbell. I'm going to skip over that one. But Ratledge, this is a guy who played right guard for Georgia. And I thought he had the skill set to play left. And that looks to me like that's possibly the case here. 6'6.5", 308 pounds, maybe a little bit on the tall side, but he looks like a left guard to me. Arms are too short to move out to tackle. He had the number 1 athletic score among all guards, the most athletic guard at the combine this year. Sub 5, 40-yard dash, 10-yard split, 172, elite. Pretty good vert, pretty good broad. I mean, then another athletic freak here. So you go down the list, and over and over and over again, you just find yourself trying to figure out how these guys move given how big they are. And Ratledge was no exception. I think Ratledge did himself some serious favors today. This one's a tackle, and I think he will probably remain a tackle, so I don't know how interested the Seahawks are, but I got to talk about Ariante Ursary because he was as big as advertised, 331 pounds, pretty good arm length, 33 and an eighth, and yet almost a 5-second 40, 175 10-yard split. Guys this big are not supposed to move like this at all. Guys like this do not move like this almost ever. So Ursary of the Golden Gophers, definitely going to be that. It feels like every now and then you get a tackle like this. Like, remember Daniel Falele? This guy isn't as big as Falele, but it's that similar kind of physical freak stuff. His vert was okay. His broad was real good. I mean, he's just a monster out there, man. Who else? Eli Cox. And I wanted to make a note of this one because he's a center, and the centers in this class are really not all that engaging. So when I saw Eli Cox out there, 306 pounds, 6'4", so legitimate NFL size, but he's running a 5.02 40. I was like, okay, here's another guy who's a lot more athletic than you would expect. Aren't a lot of centers out there that can run a 5-second 40. 175 10-yard split, good jumps, good 20-yard shuttle as well. Like, Eli Cox. By the way, I thought that with the exception of, like, Jake Majors and I want to say, God, there was one other guy, maybe Campbell, when the guys were going through their drills, the, non-measured drills, I thought pretty much everybody looked good. Some guys looked a little bit slower than others, but those guys looked good there. So understand that when we're talking about these numbers, we're talking about these times, these measurements, we're not just saying, oh, they're good because look at how fast they run or look at how high they jump. It's supplementing the fact that they look like they're actually capable of playing traditional fundamental football as well. And some of these guys are not going to be able to do it in the midst of a football game itself, but for the combine drills, I thought they all looked pretty good. Maybe my favorite guy of the day in terms of elevating himself above where I think he was, Joshua Gray. The aggregate has had this guy on the cusp of being undrafted pretty much all year. So he goes to the combine. I thought he looked awesome in the drills. Looked smooth, looked quick, looked smart. I really liked what I saw from Josh Gray. 300 pounds, 299 if you want to be technical, 6'5", Arm length is too short to move to tackle, obviously, but it should be okay for guard. Ran a real good 40. Ran an excellent 10-yard split. Vert and Broad were just okay, but for a guy that you might be able to get late day 3, and I don't know if you're going to be able to do that anymore. I think after today he's going to get a lot of attention. Joshua Gray, yeah, sign me up for that. I like what I saw from Joshua Gray a lot. He might have been the guy that boosted his stock more than anybody else for me, except maybe Jared Wilson. Josh Connerly Jr., this is the Oregon tackle, and I expect him to remain at tackle. He came in with 33.5-inch arms, 311-pound weight, so should be a tackle, maybe even a left tackle. So I don't know how into that we are, but I thought he looked really good. He tested great. A 171 10-yard split, I think, was the best mark of the day. 34.5-inch vert is very good. Broad jump, more mediocre, but got a little explosiveness as well. So I thought Josh Connerly was awesome out there. Again, there's very little I can critique with the offensive linemen, it feels like, this year at the Combine. Over and over again, I was just like, wow, that guy looks great. Drew Kendall, center prospect from Boston College, not somebody who I've really known much about before today, but 6'4", 308 pounds, so legitimate NFL size. Runs a 5.05. 179 10-yard split's not so great, but the 40-yard dash is good. So he stood out in the drills. I thought that in the drills where he's doing like the long pull and the what do they call it, the deep pull and that stuff, I thought he looked really good. So Drew Kendall, definitely somebody who is on my radar now as a center, maybe to challenge Oluwatimi or at least provide some depth behind him. Definitely somebody that I would not have said anything about before the Combine, but now I'm at least looking in his direction. I'm at least, thinking about it. Clay Webb, this is a guy I've had my eye on throughout the last college season for Jacksonville State. I thought he looked pretty good in the drills. He tested pretty well. He tested okay overall. Like the 5'11 is... Normally 5'11 would be really good for an interior lineman. This year it doesn't look that good. But the 10-yard split, which is what we care about more, was amazing. He had one of the best 10-yard splits. So he can move, man. He looked good in the drills. 31-inch vert's pretty good. 20-yard shuttle, maybe you're not thrilled about that, 4.9, but overall I thought Clay Webb looks like a totally draftable prospect. And even though he didn't run the 40, I gotta say, Gray's able, man. Gray's able. 36.5-inch vert. I think that was number 1 today for any offensive lineman. And one of the best verts for any offensive lineman ever, actually. So the guy's very explosive. 9'3" broad is also no joke. 312 pounds, 6'6", 32-inch arms. So maybe move to inside, maybe stay outside. I'm not sure. Most people expect him to slide inside. So, hey, we got to at least think about this, right? We got to at least talk about it. Seems like something going on here. All right, so I could go on and on, honestly, right? There are other guys. I thought Will Campbell tested well, even if he looks a little bit awkward in open space. I thought Caleb Rogers looked pretty good. Connor Colby moved better than I thought he would. I could go on and on, man. I really could. And most of the things I would say would be positive. A couple of things that were disappointing today. I'll get to that before I end this video for sure. So keep in mind that this is just me briefly covering the kind of initial impressions from this offensive lineman combine. So there's a lot more to get into, but two guys that I think hurt their cause. Tyler Booker, this is the obvious one, right? Look, you look at the tape, he can play zone. He can. If you look at the tape, it seems like he can play zone. But he's playing zone at Alabama. Is he going to be able to play zone in the NFL? If you're trying to use today as a determining factor on that, you're not going to like what you see. He's 6'5", 321 pounds. Okay, that's all right. He's got long arms, very long arms for a guard. He's got big hands. Okay, I like it, but his 40-yard dash and 10-yard split were bad. Not just mediocre. This was bad stuff. This guy is a really poor athlete, especially in this class. When you saw what the other guards, what the other centers, what the other big offensive linemen were doing, 27-inch vert that's getting laughed out of the room. Not even 8 feet on your broad. These are rough numbers. 196 on the 10-yard split in particular is really going to be a problem, right? And what is this? Almost 8-second 3-cone drill. Let's compare that to, like, some of the others. Like, I guess that, yeah, it was second to last. I guess that's, I mean, that kind of speaks for itself. And what else did we have here? The 4.8 420-yard shuttle. I would not call that very good either, right? That's near the bottom. It's not at the bottom. But, like, he's above Crenshaw Dixon. And if you watch that guy, you can tell he really can't move. So it's not surprising that Booker's faster than him. That's not an accomplishment. So Booker's just going to have to be one of those cases where we have to kind of weigh the play on the field at Alabama, which, by the way, let's just be real here, it wasn't what it was supposed to be in 2024. So we're already a little bit worried about him, and then he does this, and it's like, wow, should this guy even be a top 100 pick? I mean, I guess he's got the long arms, he's got the big hands. You don't find that in every prospect, but yikes. 538 for this guy, that's hard to get behind. 27-inch vert, 7-foot 10-inch broad, no explosiveness whatsoever. I don't know what to think anymore, man. And I guess I would say Wyatt Milum. He already hurt himself a lot at the Senior Bowl. He didn't look that good. For one, his arms, 32 and an eighth. That's a little dicey if he wants to stay at tackle, so maybe he slides into guard. 313 pounds, 6'6" 6.5". I guess he could probably do it off the top of my head, but he didn't test terribly well either. The vert and broad were both decent, I guess. 20-yard shuttle was okay, but slow and not quick to accelerate. Now, that's not surprising because it's Wyatt Milum. He's a West Virginia tackle. Those guys are road graders. I'm not saying he can't be good, but I did not like what I saw out there that much today. Okay, so in fairness, I think that pretty much everybody looked good in the abstract drills. There were a few exceptions. Just a few guys who I thought really didn't look all that stellar there. Like I said, there were some reps where Will Campbell just looked like he was unstable in open space. I think Jake Majors had a couple of reps where he looked bad, but for the most part, man, it was a pretty impressive day. So great offensive line work today. That'll take us home. We're done with the combine basically now. I'm probably going to do one more video. I might do it, I guess I'll probably do it tomorrow afternoon, maybe, looking at bench press numbers, because that's the only thing we haven't looked at in this series yet. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think down below.